If anyone wants to come up, they can come up because this is a stream that I have orchestrated and organized for Mr. Gray. He wanted to discuss some things regarding geopolitical situation in the world, and I was very much in favor of having a discussion. I today itself in the afternoon checked my emails, and I was able to actually uh, reach out to him. I messaged him and said that, sir, I'm starting a stream right now just for you. So if you are able to come up, please come up. I mean, if you are able to do that. Meanwhile, if anybody comes up, I would be delighted to actually have them on the panel. Hello, Mr. Manlatopia. Hello, Mr. JR. Thank you, sir. Good morning, by the way. It is actually a very long evening, 8:05 p.m. over here in this part of the world. But anyways, I mean, work comes first. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Manlatopia. Hello, Mr. Iridium Kush. Good morning, sir. Good morning from this part of the world. I mean, a very good evening from this part of the world. It is 8:05 p.m. over here, and I suppose it would be a very early morning over there. Hello, Mr. Billy. I have given the StreamYard link as well. If anybody wants to come up, please come up. And meanwhile, let me see if there has been a response from Mr. Gray. I start a stream regarding that very issue. Let me see. Uh, what is the thing? Yes, sir. Please, please, please. I mean, work comes first. I mean, it is our own livelihood, our own bread and butter. I understand that. I was hopeful that the German gentleman, Mr. Gray, would come up on the stream. I actually, in fact, I started the stream for him exclusively so that he would come up and share some of the aspects of what he wants to highlight and talk about. And as a matter of fact, if he comes, then I'm pretty much okay with that. And we will see what happens. We shall see what happens. Meanwhile, uh, sharing the screen, is it possible? Oh, yes, sharing the screen shall be possible. Uh, I'm listening to Mr. Billy, by the way. Yes, I hope Mr. Gray is okay. Uh, Good mother is still absent. I hope she would be comfortably, doing her morning chores. She would join us if possible. But, anyways, I mean, she would join us eventually. Uh, I stumbled upon a gem of a video um, from Dr. Sachs, and he was in Athens Democracy Forum of all places. He had to go over there, and let me share my screen. Okay, so It is over here, and let us hear it. In fact, I would mute as well myself so that you people would be able to hear him, this gem of a person. Are people able to hear it? If people could tell in the chat if it is quite audible. I mean, when I'm starting the, shall we say, video. I mean, if people shall be able to tell, then and only then. Okay, okay. So no audio. So no audio. Okay, okay, fine. Let me. Yes, yes. I shall do it again. Stop screen. Then again, share screen, share system audio as well, and then this is what good mother taught me. Thank you, my tech support from America. Let us see as to what she has to say. Uh, I would not quite bore you, but on this venerable Athens Democracy Forum, which has been sponsored by the New York Times, there was a gentleman. Uh, he had been a former diplomat, uh, a visiting faculty to University of Columbia, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, and the conversation between him and Mr. Ban Ki Moon, former, I shall say, chairman to United Nations, it was eye-opening for some of the normie dipshits of the world, just like they stumble upon someone like, shall we say, John J. Mearsheimer, for example. Uh, Let us just dive into it.
What is your sense I mean, let's try to stick to the topic a bit, at least at the beginning, of democratic signs, movements in both countries. What's your take?
Yeah, my experience is that uh, different societies have very deep rooted political cultures and traditions that extend far back in history, and for good and for bad, and that these cultures are real, they are persistent, they are different, they don't rank on an easy scale that this is the best and this is the worst, like we want to do. Uh, and we need an approach. I very much like what you said and agree with it. Uh, there are different narratives that are held, and these different narratives have merit. And the solution in a world of different narratives is to speak with each other more than we do. We in the United States, and I say we, what I really mean is our political elites, do not speak with Chinese political elites except to point fingers or to yell at them or to do other things. We certainly don't even shake hands with Russian leaders or diplomats. But I've lived my whole career for 42 years of active duty listening to different narratives and seeing those perspectives from different sides and finding a lot of merit in the various positions and saying if you would sit down to speak with each other, we'd actually get somewhere. So let me be
okay.
specific.
Okay.
China looks today not completely different from the Han Dynasty, a centralized administrative state. And with Confucian culture, with a tradition of excellence of the Mandarins. When I speak with Chinese senior officials, which I do often, they are the best informed professionals I know in the world. When I deal with them, they know their brief. They're sophisticated, well trained. Occasionally, my students. And they believe in professional excellence of a decentralized administrative state. And that political culture is more than 2,000 years old. When you are looking at Russia, it looks a lot like Putin looks a lot like a Tsar. It's not an accident. That is a culture of authority and a culture of tradition. When I look at my own country, the United States, it is a semi-democratic, white-dominated, hierarchical, racist society that aims.
Now, this is where he turns into a liberal sort of a gibberish or something. But when he goes into, because, okay, I find I would like to listen to someone from the other side of the spectrum as well, who is not a conservative, but who is talking sense regarding the geopolitical issues rather than going into the intricacies or the, shall we say, trifling details about what is their personal ideology. That doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm going to listen to anybody who is a straight shooter, who is more concerned about the factual and circumstantial facts on the ground rather than going into this liberal gibberish about anything. And he spews a little bit of liberal gibberish because that is who liberals are. They like to project and flaunt, show it off in front of all the people all the time. So let us just skip that.
Simplify because we say democracy and these are, yes, it's important. What's important is actually the details. As I mentioned last night, Plato, democracy, that was the last thing on his mind. That was the enemy. The plus was a philosopher king, of course,
Right.
in the Republic. And for Aristotle, it was much more subtle and complex of a system of governance that mixed governance by the one, by the few, and by the many, but on the good side of the ledger. And one more point I want to make about democracy, because we're in a democracy forum where we treat democracy as the good. The most violent country in the world in the 19th century, by far, was perhaps the most democratic or second most democratic, and that was Britain. You can be democratic at home and ruthlessly imperial abroad. The most violent country in the world since 1950 has been the United States. It's
Jeff,
been by far involved
Jeffrey,
in more,
stop
wait a
now.
minute, in more wars.
Let's,
For what
Jeffrey,
purpose?
I'm
finished my
Jeffrey, I'm your
sentence.
moderator, and it's enough.
Okay, I'm done.
I'm not here to defend one system or another, nor am I here in.
Yes, you are a prostitute that has been, that has been acting like a concubine for the New York Times. That is who you are, Mister. guilt ridden, self hating, apologetic, liberal white chap. That is who you are.
Any way except to have to facilitate a conversation and to stop speeches. So, so the question I'm going to ask you is democracy the wrong lens then from what you've said to be looking at these two countries, which is what's on the table, China and Russia?
Is it to be?
Is it the wrong lens
Yes.
through which to be looking at these two countries?
The single biggest mistake of President Biden is to say the great struggle of the world is between democracies and autocracies. The real struggle of the world is to live together and overcome our common crises of environment and inequality.
Now, he is a big lefty liberal, by the way. But when he tries to put blame and tries to hold the current dispensation accountable for their own folly, the moderator has to, rein in, sort of, do some sort of purge while he's making a speech. And that is why I love this chap, not for his personal views, not for his political opinions about it, because he still calls 6th of January allegedly again as an insurrection. Allegedly, of course, because I have to add the damn word, otherwise, Auntie Susan would not be satisfied without it. So here is for you, Auntie Susan, allegedly. Yes, and the matter is still sub judice, so I would not comment on that. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is this: when this man tried to hold liberals accountable himself, he was booed and heckled with a capital H, and he could not speak, so he had to put the mic down, or whatever control system of the microphone which he had in his hand. And this inequality and all these noble ideas and everything, that doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all. Okay. Yes, but this is how you see. This is how you see. New York Times hired prostitute of all people, who was, anyway, let's continue. Let us continue. Why not? I mean, he has a lot to say. Oh, Mr. Indian Jesus. Uh, okay, I shall listen to him. I mean, Mr. Bullett's already had a conversation with him. Let us see what happens in the future. Let us see how it all unravels and unfolds.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
So actually, the idea of this panel is probably wrong-headed, I think. Um, Let me come back to the Russia-China relationship, because we've heard a lot about uh, friendship here. You're very far away, so someone should stand up and raise their hand so I can see them. I see a young man with a hand way up in the air with a black shirt on. Yes, sir. Why don't you? But please try to ask a question and direct it to someone specific, if if possible.
Okay, thank you very much for the discussion.
And
I'll-
introduce yourself.
Okay,
too.
I'm Tomáš Choj from Slovakia, representing Global Liberal Arts Students Alliance here.
I mean, that is a teenager's voice, by the way. Global liberal art student. So he might be, you know, in his early 20s, but why his voice sounds like a teenager?
I would like to ask Mr. Sachs, continuing on what he said yesterday, and he sort of pointed out it today as well. What you mentioned is that the United States and the West lacks moderation, and you sort of hinted on that as well. I come from Slovakia, as I've said, and I would like to ask you, what do you mean by your sentence or by your hint that the eastward expansion might have caused, or the NATO might have
Okay.
caused the invasion, and whether Slovakia as a sovereign country shouldn't have the right to decide where it belongs mainly
Okay.
NATO. Thank you.
Thank you. That's clear. Let's take one more question from back there. Yes, sir.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. I'm from Hong Kong, and I'm representing the Global Liberal Arts Alliance, and I'm going to ask a question about that. So, Mr. Sachs, yeah, you just raised that we should, the top political agenda is to alleviate inequality instead of arguing with each other which one is not democratic or democratic. But there are indeed authoritarian regimes which are they really motivated to tackle inequality while they build gulags in Xinjiang, jailing students and dissolving civil society in Hong Kong, and fading a history of large-scale killings in the Cultural Revolution? Well, I'm risking my only freedom of speech of saying that because I live in Hong Kong. But is that hypocritical or morally decent for the West to collaborate with them to alleviate inequalities as the first agenda to solve, while
Okay.
not condemning their
That's
the
good.
dangers
It's clear. Thank you.
in a
Thank you. That's clear.
yeah. Thank you.
Jeff, do you want to respond to those first?
Yeah. My view is that we need a world that operates under two major charters. One is the United Nations Charter, and the second is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is our moral charter. That's a multilateral charter. It is based on the idea of international cooperation that was envisioned after the horrors of World War II. It is, in my view, the basis for peace. In 1990, the basis for peace, when Gorbachev called for the end of the Warsaw Pact, was the end of NATO, actually, as well, and Europe living under a European security framework, and that's what the OSCE could provide. I've never been a fan of NATO since the end of the Soviet Union. NATO was a military alliance of the United States created to defend against a Soviet invasion of Western Europe. And the United States and Germany promised Gorbachev in 1990 explicitly that with the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact and with the reunification of Germany, NATO would not expand eastward. That promise was immediately reneged by Clinton and then by Bush, and then it has continued under Obama and under Trump, up to and including NATO in the Black Sea, which, if anyone knows the history of the Black Sea, is absolutely viewed by Russia as the core of Russian security. And so it is a pure provocation, in my view. And it is a predictable outcome that we have this kind of explosion. So to my mind, prudence, that was the idea that I was emphasizing yesterday. Prudence, which is one of the four virtues, practical wisdom, it's often translated, or phronesis in Greek, means situational awareness, that you act in a way which is wise. And that's what we are lacking right now. And I know exactly why we're lacking it, because in 1992, the leaders in my country, many of my colleagues at Harvard and elsewhere, said, we are now the unchallenged colossus of the world. We can do what we want.
Jeffrey,
And just to say, and wait, just let me, because he asked, I'm going to finish the answer,
No, no,
and then
It's just that
I
we're
will give
running
the floor
out of
to you.
time.
Sorry.
So, no,
Okay. Just to say,
keep
if
going,
you
just
say who
briefly.
made most of the wars of recent years, first, NATO bombed Serbia in 1999. UN, no way. The invasion of Iraq under complete lies, not misunderstanding, but lies. The CIA operation to overthrow Assad in 2009.
I think you've answered
the
question,
NATO
Jeff,
mission to
for
overthrow
God's sake.
Gaddafi. And then we say, how can anyone launch a war? Well, 4 of the last 5 came from the United States side. And NATO enlargement did as well. We need some balance and prudence. That's my point.
You've answered the question last night at great length, and you've answered it again at great length. So,
honestly,
Yaroslav, respond, and then we're out of time.
Sure. I am a bit surprised because, as I have already said, in 1989 and afterwards, you, Jeffrey, promoted the liberty and democracy and values, not. And what it means, it means that today, if we try to blame the West for the war, it is to take away responsibility, a whole or a part, whatever, from Vladimir Putin. It was he who took the decision of leading a war in February. And we really, it's very ambiguous to take this responsibility out of him. That was his personal decision that he justified in many ways. And the second point, it is fascinating to me to see that your person, in particular, you were a promise for me for the liberty that eventually we could get out of these horrible spheres of influence and stand for the human rights and self-determination of nations, and in fact to get out of the trap of history. What it means not only for Poland, but for Estonia and Lithuania and Latvia, to get out of the history trap and
No, I understand. Yaroslav,
get out of
Yaroslav,
300
Yaroslav,
years
Yaroslav,
of...
Listen, wait.
For the God side, where are the human rights?
I've completely failed you as your moderator, for which I apologize. We have a really good conversation going. We will continue it later because the whole...
We're on the same side.
Oh,
And I want to
okay.
explain one thing.
So 30 seconds, and then we have to keep going. And I do apologize. I love this conversation, but it's the wrong place to have it all day long.
I love your country, and I worked as hard as I possibly could for it. And I want you to know that when the Solidarity government took power with...
You were with us.
Not
you were
only,
on our side.
I was helping to devise that with Prime Minister Mazowiecki, who made it possible? Mikhail Gorbachev. Actually, with the call with Adam Mitnick, a very fascinating moment in history. So it's more complicated than this. We need both sides working together, and it's possible.
Right. I think we...
Well, there you go. There you go. Who drew the first blood? Who drew the first blood? Balance and prudence, more war? Mr. Iridium Kush, he wanted to get out of the quote unquote sphere of influence of Russians. Now, ethnically, he is the very same Slavic Orthodox Christian, um, perhaps who has also allowed for same sex marriages amidst the conflict right now in Ukraine and other parts of the world. Some exclusions are countries like Hungary and Poland. I mean, they don't even want to take any refugees at all, and that's it. But that is the thing. Nothing. But that man is actually one of those who had an interaction with, Mr. Ban Ki Moon and two were sitting as if Aristotle on one side and Confucius on one side. And yes, he sounded like a piece of shit. But you see how the moderator comes in to facilitate that particular argument that he was trying to advance, which was stopped with heckling with a capital H by the moderator himself, so that that message doesn't go in the general public. And that was the case. Anyways, we have something more fascinating than this: Aristotle Confucius dialogue. And we are trying to allude to that. It is just a little bit of a technical glitch, as I would say. If nobody is coming, then I will also go. But this needs to be on my channel, and that is why I would say Aristotle Confucius dialogue. Okay, this is with the same chap, by the way, from Athens Democracy Forum, a supposed think tank, one of many, just like the ones we used to work with, based on the geopolitical situations, issuing their diktats to the rest of the world, the rest of the benighted heathen, I shall say. Oh, okay. So this is the dialogue. And see, even now, he would be heckled by the prostitute from the New York Times.
In our societies. I'd like to turn first to you, Aristotle. What is to be done about these problems? What should we do to try to make a better world?
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I can tell you it's very easy for me to uh, take this position because for 10 years I had the incredible honor to be special advisor to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and I always felt that I was advising Confucius. I really always felt that I was advising an extraordinarily wise man who understood the core of Confucius's approach, which was relationship. Because the Secretary General would always explain to me if I'm meeting my Chinese counterpart or my American counterpart or my counterpart from Germany, what are the special implications and feelings? What are the proper rights in order to honor the counterparts? And by honoring those counterparts, he accomplished remarkable things, the Secretary General. In fact, bringing us the two most important agreements of modern times, the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. And those are agreements that reach 193 member countries. To do that, you need the wisdom of Confucius. So what does Aristotle bring to this?
You are, may I remind you, you are Aristotle.
And why do
you
I sit as Aristotle and I suggested not as Socrates? Socrates, of course, was declared by the oracle at Delphi as the wisest person in the world. He had great doubts about that, so he spent his life asking people about what is a good life. They could never give a coherent answer. So he finally realized, maybe I am the wisest person because I know I don't know the answers to these questions. And that was his conclusion. But my sense is that his philosophical grandchild, from Socrates to Plato and Plato to Aristotle, did know important answers. Aristotle gave us the two greatest books on this topic of human well-being ever written in the Western tradition. And they come together as a volume. The first is the Nicomachean Ethics, about personal behavior, and it is paired with the Politics, which is the invention of political science, but not Machiavelli's political science. Aristotle's political science is politics for the good, for the human good, politics based on ethics. Now, Aristotle told us something of enduring value, 2,300 years of enduring value. But I think in the modern age, the first thing Aristotle would have done is to pick up the phone or send a WhatsApp to Confucius and say, could you come over to the Athens Forum? We need to talk.
And here you are.
Because it seems to me like our theories, while they're phrased differently, are really similar, because both of our theories put the essence of a good society in virtue. It's the virtue of the leaders, it's the virtue of the citizens. This is the core of Aristotle's political thought and Confucius's political thought. We lost it in the year 1514 when Machiavelli told us, no, it's not virtue, it's how tricky you can be. And then politics became managing power, not cultivating virtue and well-being. And I believe that we need Aristotle and Confucius back again as our real guides, not the study of power, but the management of human well-being based on virtue. Because we've lost even the concept of this, ladies and gentlemen, of what is a virtuous
Yes, we
life.
did.
Before we hear from Confucius, I want to say my favorite part about Confucius, because it also exemplifies Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He said, if we can come to appreciate and understand courtesy and music better, there will be no more war. And I want to put underscoring on courtesy, because it's not even a concept. In my country, no courtesy. We have the right to do this. We do what we want. Nancy Pelosi, we fly to Taiwan because we can do that. No courtesy. If there's no courtesy, there can be no peace. There will only be war. So Confucius has it exactly right. We need courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aristotle.
Thank you very much, Aristotle. While I try to deflect the topic in my mellifluous, ornamental English British accent from the Coronation Street, while you have to again jump in to try to correct me, or I would be heckling with you with a capital H. Anyways,
Is essential to life, moderation. Aristotle, as you look around the world, do you feel that we've lost that sense of balance, that we just hurtle helter-skelter from one thing to another? And I've lost this concept that can be an orienting compass in life.
I think that the war and the geopolitical crisis between the US and China is a reflection also of the loss of balance, but not only in the way that it is commonly understood. Aristotle, I guess,
Yes?
I happened to be advisor to President Gorbachev, and
That's
to
extraordinary.
it is
How did you do that? Were you on
because
some kind of a
when you are
hotline
the
from
world's
somewhere?
greatest philosopher, you can do all
Okay.
sorts of things. And the advisor to President Yeltsin and the advisor to President Kuchma in the first years of Ukrainian independence. So I saw one crucial thing, which was that at the end of the Cold War, the United States and Germany promised to the Soviet Union and to Russia, if you disband the Warsaw Pact, we will not extend NATO.
You actually witnessed this, Aristotle?
I-
You are saying that you witnessed this?
I absolutely-
It's disputed by former Secretary James Baker, you
Yeah.
name it.
It is-
You heard it, you were in the room?
If anybody,
And let me show you the evidence for that, which this prostitute would never be able to show. Hmm. So, NATO expansion. Record, and this is from Georgetown University, folks. Georgetown University. The conversation, a record of conversation between Mikhail Gorbachev and James Baker in Moscow. And if you could see all of this, it is very brief, so let us just read it. So Gorbachev says, at the beginning of this part of our talk, I would like to add what has been said about the All European meeting in the year 1990. Judge, Judging by numerous signs, the situation in Europe is leaping out of our control. That is why this top level meeting will help to channel the processes. These developments, if directed in democratic, evolutionary forms, could bring favorable results from the West and for the West and for the East. I had a thought. Our prediction that the world will change and change dramatically in many areas turned out to be correct. And it is a very good coincidence that at the same time, relations between the world's two most powerful and influential countries are in favorable phase. This is important for the present and stock for the future. We can still do a good deal right now. It will be more difficult later. I have said that our countries are doomed to cooperate. We need to make this cooperation stable. There are no insurmountable conflicts between us. We must strive to place the existing conflicts within the framework of cooperation. Now, I would like to say a few words to you about the plenum and the situation in our country. And James Baker says, yes, that would be very interesting. Gorbachev says, in addition, we would exchange views on the German question and on Afghanistan. If you would like to discuss something else in this composition, I would have no objection. Perhaps we will discuss Central America. The plenum was very important for us. We have come to a stage of perestroika where it is time to provide answers to many of the questions. Positions are beginning to crystallize in society, movements have become visible, and a major realignment is underway. It is not easy to understand all of this from the right and from the left, even with different aims. There is pressure on the center. We have come to the conclusion that it is necessary to accelerate the economic reform. Before us, the problem arose of creating a mechanism that would allow us to regulate monetary income more strictly. No surprises there. We came to the conclusion that we cannot avoid reforming system of price formation. We will have to take some unpopular measures. Well, this was quite not the record, but regarding NATO expansion, perhaps this would help. Ah, yeah, this is the one. This is the one. You see the photograph over here? I mean, I assume that people. I'm sharing my screen. Am I? Okay, I'm sharing my screen. So, this is Mr. Gorbachev discussing German unification with his Hans Dietrich Genscher and Helmut Kohl in Russia, July 15th, 1990. So, this is the photograph, and the record actually shows that multiple uh, Washington, D.C., December 12, 2017. And I would be posting this link in the chat as well for the people to see. Anyone, any sucker of media who tells you otherwise regarding that Russia is the aggressor, show them this link of NSA archive from Georgetown University. Okay? George, no, not Georgetown University, George Washington University. Here I stand corrected. George Washington University. US Secretary of State James Baker's famous not 1 inch eastward assurance about NATO expansion in his meeting with the erstwhile Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev on February 9, 1990, was a part of cascade of assurances about Soviet security given by Western leaders to Gorbachev and other Soviet officials throughout the process of German unification in 1990 and on into 1991, according to declassified US, Soviet, German, British, and French documents posted today by the National Security Archive at George Washington University. The documents show, here it is further elucidated, that the documents show that multiple national leaders were considering and rejecting Central and Eastern European membership in NATO as of early 1990 and through 1991. That discussions of NATO in the context of German unification negotiations in 1990 were not at all narrowly limited to the status of East German territory, and that subsequent Soviet and Russian complaints about being misled about NATO expansion were founded in written contemporaneous memcons and telcons at the highest level. The documents reinforce former CIA Director Robert Gates' criticism of pressing ahead with expansion of NATO eastwards in the 1990s when Gorbachev and others were led to believe that wouldn't happen. The key phrase buttressed by the documents is led to believe. See, this is the quote on the right side. Page from Stepanov Mamadzhe's notes from February 12, 1990, reflecting Baker's assurance to Shevardnadze during the Ottawa Open Skies Conference, and if United Germany stays in NATO, we should take care about non-expansionism of its jurisdiction to the east. Look at this. People, look at this. This is George Washington University. This is not me. I mean, you could get from my Appu accent that I'm not interested in meddling in American domestic politics, but look at this. Just look at this. I mean, such a level of condescension towards Russophobia. I mean, enough with other phobias of the world. This is particularly Russophobia. And once again, for the viewers, I'm again telling you this is from NSA Archive, George Washington University. Again, it is written over there in the excerpts, not once, but three times, meaning thrice. Baker tried out the not 1 inch eastward formula with Gorbachev in February 9, 1990 meeting. He agreed with Gorbachev's statement in response to the assurances that NATO expansion is unacceptable. Baker assured Gorbachev that neither the president nor I intend to extract any unilateral advantages from the processes that are taking place, and that the Americans understood that not only for the Soviet Union but for other European countries as well, it is important to have guarantees that if the United States keeps its presence in Germany within the framework of NATO, not an inch of NATO's present military jurisdiction will spread in an eastern direction. See document number 6. Bureaucrats lie through their teeth. So, what this chap is saying is not wrong.
If anybody would like to write to Aristotle's email address, sax@columbia.edu, I will send you to the archival files that show explicitly.
Well, I have shown it explicitly myself because it is in NSA archives from George Washington University. That is the link that he would be given. Anyways, before going further, let me Control C and Control V. This is the link of the NSA archive, which I have given. So feel free to actually go through that. You would see some, interesting and fascinating things over there regarding the geopolitical history.
How Hans Dietrich Genscher said explicitly, we will not move an inch east. And also how the Secretary General of NATO in the NATO meeting in 1990 said, we will not move east at all.
So, Aristotle, are you blaming the current crisis on the West breaking its promises?
I am blaming the current crisis on the lack of balance and moderation. Absolutely. Because the idea that this is only one side is a myth. This is a crisis that has been brewing for 30 years. And every year Russia said, please do not come closer to our borders. Please do not come closer to our borders. Please do not come closer to our borders. That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen.
So you think
in 2008, nonetheless, do you interrupt Aristotle?
Well,
Please.
sometimes I'm obliged to. I know you've come a long way. You must be tired, but I feel I feel I have to from time to time.
Please.
No, Aristotle. So these broken promises, they would not have been broken if the leaders had been wise enough to consult you. Is that what you're saying?
We had very wise statesmen who followed Confucian and Aristotelian thought.
You really think they're one and the same?
Like George Kennan, who said in 1997, NATO expansion will lead to the next Cold War. He said it immediately. And we entered a region of crisis. And being Aristotle, I called the White House last year and I said, please stop the NATO enlargement because maybe we can still have peace. But they're not philosophers, they're people of action. And they were not interested in stopping any expansion. They declared 3 times in 2021 that Ukraine will be a member of NATO. We trapped Ukraine in the middle of this battle between these two giants. It's an utter tragedy for Ukraine, an utter tragedy. Because if you have Aristotelian prudence, what the Greeks call phronesis, wisdom, contextual wisdom, if you have temperance, moderation, sophrosony in Greek, if you have the sense of justice, excuse my Greek, diokizny, what is it? Diokizny, yes. If you have these virtues, don't push the other side. Don't fly to Taiwan because we have the right to do so. Exercise prudence, moderation, sense of justice, respect for the other side, and then you won't have war. This is what Confucius meant when he said, if you come to understand and appreciate courtesy, we will not have war. Courtesy, please, courtesy.
So Aristotle, are you in despair? Aristotle, have you despaired? This century, we're not yet a quarter of the way through the century, but Aristotle, you seem to be writing us off because we've lost touch with the most fundamental values that we need for a peaceful world. That's a very pessimistic message from such a brilliant man.
Aristotle was not a
pessimist. No, you are Aristotle.
I am not a pessimist because what I teach is that human beings have 2 sides. They have the sides of selfishness and they have the sides of virtue. But the goal is to cultivate virtue. Arete in Greek. Excellence, personal excellence, political excellence. And what we teach as philosophers is not that human beings are intrinsically good or intrinsically evil, but they are teachable, that virtue can be cultivated, exactly what my colleague Confucius says, that people can learn virtues. Now, I also know, and I'll just say, it's every generation's responsibility to keep working for virtue because it's never a done deal. And the greatest philosophers, my teacher, Plato, was attempted 3 times to be an advisor to the governor of Syracuse. He failed all 3 times. It's hard to be a foreign advisor, by the way. They don't listen to you, even to my teacher, Plato. But it doesn't mean you can be pessimistic. It means we have to redouble our efforts at our own virtue. Because by cultivating our own virtue, we cultivate the response in others as well. That's the idea of courtesy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aristotle. Confucius,
Anyway, I'm just fast forwarding the idea of. I want to listen Aristotle more, honestly.
More of Aristotelian virtues and Confucian virtues are so similar is the core basis for hope. There is a common humanity that can cooperate together, can work together, can build virtue together. There is zero intrinsic reason for conflict between the US and China. The problem is actually a little bit of US neurotic reaction to China's rise. China is viewed as a threat. It should not be viewed as a threat. China should be viewed as a normal country trying to have a normal life in this planet. It just happens to have a lot of people in it. And that makes it big. But the idea that it is some threat that must be combated is an unvirtuous idea, because China and the United States and the West can cooperate with each other, and we have to cooperate with each other.
but Aristotle, you see no difference between American democracy and the Chinese surveillance state?
I think it's absolutely important to understand.
He should ask the then director of NSA, or shall we say, yeah, he was from the NSA, James Clapper, when he was asked in congressional hearing, the Senate committee hearing regarding are you conducting mass surveillance of American citizens? He, with a, shall we say, cavalier look on his face, uttered two words, not wittingly, but again, I mean, he being, shall we say, a bootlicker for the establishment, the deep state, quote unquote, he would never enunciate those very same words for the American surveillance state.
Understand something about my philosophy, and please reread The Politics.
I will, I promise.
It's a wonderful book, and it says something. There are three basic forms of government: by the one, by the few, and by the many. But they each have a good side and they each have a bad side. The good side of the one is monarchy, the bad side of the one is tyranny. The good side of the few is aristocracy. The bad side of the few is oligarchy. The good side of the many is republic. The bad side is he called it democracy, by the way. But just so you know, it is mob rule. So
I rest my case. I rest my case. I mean, I'm waiting for Gray, but he is not coming. I shall check my. Meanwhile, I should check my email. If he comes, it is fine. It, I've started to actually fade away from geopolitical stuff, the elements of geostrategy. I had been a former strategic affairs observer in the past, but that's it. That is the extent of it. And regarding strategies, Romans and the Eighth Army and all that. Okay, so my proton. Let me see if anybody comes up. Here is the invite link. I'm giving it to the people. If anyone wishes to come up, they can come up. Meanwhile, let me check my mail. So there has been no response from Gray, Mr. Gray, again. So I hope if anybody wants to come up and have just a little brief exchange of ideas. Oh, Billy the Goat is here. Thank goodness someone is here. Hello, sir.
Hey, yo, contriver, how you doing?
I'm better than I deserve, good sir. Why do you ask?
Well, it's good to see how people are. Pleasantries.
As expected from the Coronation Street chap.
I feel like it's been a while since we've had a chat. Actually, when was the last time we spoke?
It would have been on Good Mother's channel. I don't know much about it, but I'm trying to stagger my way forward regarding the British accent. I'm
Ah,
rolling
yes.
the R's the right way. I'm trying to, yes, I'm trying to advance my arguments in a very articulate manner, and you would be the
Very good.
perfect judge for telling me as to how I'm doing regarding that.
Oh, splendid, dear fellow.
Thank you.
Good.
Come again.
Yes.
Anyways, so this argument that was happening in the Athens Democracy Forum, I usually don't watch it quite often, but I was watching it because such a learned man was over there, a learned chap, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs. Is the one that you know was ousted from NBC or MSNBC news channel, while he said, well, there is direct radar evidence and all that regarding the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and I actually was trying to see as to what is happening. Uh, some of the people said that your transatlantic cousins are being scandalous right now. People are involved in some Jason Bourne sort of black ops operations
Oh,
all over Russia, and regarding the Crimean bridge blast as well, regarding the Nord Stream. 2 pipeline as well. You people have done the
Yeah.
same, and you
It's
are deliberately keeping out, not you as in particular, but some of the state apparatus, I would say, of the British government is indulging in all these espionage and the
it's
Cambridge
all
5
yeah.
sort of activities of Kim Philby, Kane Can Cross, Kim Philby, all these Cambridge 5 chaps.
Yeah. It's very confusing. Lots of things have been happening. I heard some other pipelines were being messed around with. Um, we got like
Yes,
a
but the blast radius was so low that underwater it could not affect it.
well,
It could not beset it.
it's who knows what's going on anymore. Even if you're trying to like keep up with the news, it's just so fast paced now.
I heard
That
that you had a new prime minister, Rishi
yeah,
Sunak, and
yeah.
I don't think that he is going to do well. Take it from an
No,
Indian. I
well,
know it for a fact because Brexit, the issue is now on the back burner, which should have been at the forefront of his agenda, which was in the case of our own chap Boris Johnson when he became prime minister. The Tories have the Tories have the wherewithal, the Tories have literally the wherewithal to actually sustain political support from the general masses if they play their cards really well regarding this
according
Russia Ukraine situation that is happening in the vicinity, as well as, shall we say, uh, these chaps who are now, putting Brexit, as a back burner issue. I mean, Brexit should be the forefront because this is why we had a plebiscite, a referendum, and that is why we voted on it and declared it that we are leaving the European Union, and that is going to be the case. All the illegal, shall we say, invaders within the geographical boundaries of United Kingdom have to leave. That's a short point. And if someone like Rishi Sunak comes with that sort of approach, then I think all these issues like corruption, theatrics of political drama, and shall we say governance and all that, that could take a backseat. I mean, that is not an issue for the general public. Two issues are where we are regarding the Russia Ukraine conflict, and the second thing is Brexit, because it is literally about our own identity as a nation.
done the identity part. Um, well, you got news that's coming over from Russia that their economy is collapsing because of their mobilizing um, in a crazy sort of manner. So all their top employees are either fleeing the country or they're being pushed to the front line. So they got no one left in the factories to keep up with production. Um,
I mean,
some
but isn't it something that happened very early, shall we say? I mean, 9 years ago or something. Because I clearly remember when Tata was running the Port Talbot steel plant, among other things.
well, I'm not sure how far
The
back it
erst
goes.
the erstwhile David Cameron. Hey, I know about this stuff. The erstwhile David Cameron government, who was getting a lesson regarding morality from Mr. Obama, was who was reticent about even you know discussing the issue of Brexit or regarding being in the European Union. They are the ones who actually, did not address the issue of Chinese steel imports.
See, I think
And
the one of the main, not main, but like it would be bad enough if we just have one main sort of crisis to deal with, but because we've got so many different
It
things
is a
happening,
multiple set of
right?
crises.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and they all start to intertwine, so it gets harder to deal with one without having to address the other. So this conversation can go all over the place. One minute we could be talking about Russia, then we could talk about China, then we could talk about Europe, and then talk about the economy. We got that,
No,
like
but
you mentioned, we got that
this
new
is
prime minister.
internal. And I was listening to Channel 4 News among of all things, and they were making some sense about it because Javed was, I think, was the minister, not the chief party whip, and the Tories, they went to India. He took a flight to India. He met Mr. Tata when he was the chairman of the Tata Group, and he said that please don't withdraw, or please don't cease your manufacturing production, business operations, factory operations. Well, he got a succinct reply from Mr. Tata regarding we are willing to sell, expensive steel because the cost of manufacturing is relatively more expensive as compared to the Chinese steel. But the thing is, why is your government importing Chinese steel in the first place? If you would not do that, the prices would be set, and we would have a monopoly regarding that. So please don't do that. And then when everything failed, save our steel, save our steel. Who is the Labour Party leader? Jeremy Corbyn. He was saying, save our steel, save our steel. The Port Talbot plant is being, destroyed by the rich capitalists, entrepreneurs, and, we have to nationalize it. Well, you can nationalize it, but why are you importing Chinese steel? Again, the elephant in the room was the one man that made a video about it and saying these are poor people. These The entire Port Talbot city actually is built around that very steel manufacturing plant. And when it got closed, all the ancillary industries, all the restaurants, all the bars, where the chaps would be having a drink in the evening or some sort, everything got closed, and these people were not able to make head or tail about why our jobs are being taken over and it is being nationalized. But nationalization does not solve the issue. You are importing Chinese steel more and more, and people were asking, where is Comrade Osborne, isn't it?
The trade deals, I can't really comment on. I'm sure it's more than just
I know,
why
but to summarize on
important.
your part, I have given a brief summary to our listeners and viewers on your part. You just have to attest to it whether it is, legitimate and authentic on for information or not. What I have said so far.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of additional kind of like perks when these deals are being made. So on top of maybe steel being traded, there'll be like deal negotiations included with that. So it's like if we buy the steel, we will also uh, secure maybe, I don't know, like 5 years of business or something like that, or we'll have some other industries attached to that. Workers might come over in exchange, um, or a trade of like technology information, like how like during this sort of space race, it's like if you give us certain technologies and we'll give you some of our research, and then you can develop your own kind of platforms. So it's far more lucrative than what may be presented.
Oh no, I totally understand that, but the basic elephant in the room was increased Chinese steel imports. And the Chinese have a habit of predatory pricing, if I could call it that. Uh, what happens is they are relatively cheapest in the market than when they enter a market. Via their cheapest dumping tactics, they actually acquire a sizable portion of the market and have their monopoly. And via Beijing, then they regulate the market as to what is the price going to be. And corrupt officials alongside corrupt, you know, companies and corrupt business owners who know only how to make a profit out of it. You know, they are sellouts for the industries. Let me be honest. Let me give you another example regarding the motorcycle company called Norton Commando. I hope that you reminisce as to what it is, right?
Nope.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
Norton Commando is a motorcycle manufacturing company from UK. It makes good motorcycles, you know, the best of the best cafe racers, and which even someone like Keanu Reeves from John Wick and Matrix movies also keeps one in his collection. So, uh, again, coming back to the topic of motorcycle manufacturing, that chap literally sold out the business. I don't know why. Because businessmen and corporations are also, I mean, we have to understand that they work for the profit. So, I mean, they are working for the profit. So, if it is a lucrative business for them to even liquidate their own business, they shall do that at a very high price. And that
Yeah.
is what the Norton Commando company did. I'm just drawing a similar analog as to what has happened in the Port Talbot steel manufacturing plant over there. Uh, in the Norton Commando motorcycle manufacturing industry, then people thought that this is going to be a disaster. So, an Indian company again came up, which is obviously a legacy of the British, shall we say, motorcycle manufacturing company. Not a legacy, but it is an Indian version of, shall we say, Hayabusa or Kawasaki or Yamaha or whatever. Okay, so TVS, it is a company from India which came up, which makes good motorcycles and mopeds, amongst other two-wheeler vehicles. They said we are going to keep the legacy of the Norton Commando intact, and that is why we are acquiring this, so that it would be the very same British industry that it once was. Just like in the case of Jaguar and Land Rover, it is totally a British company right now. Yes, it comes under Tata Motors or whatever, but it is a literally British vehicle. And when I see a Jaguar or a Land Rover, I know that it is pretty much a British engineer designed, and the blueprint of the vehicle itself is designed by a team of engineers from Birmingham or Wembley or somewhere, where they would be, you know, they just bankrolled the industry, and the people, came up to rise to the occasion regarding re resurrecting the very same industry that once died, regarding Jaguar and Land Rover.
Yeah, but the attitude. Oh, I can hear echoes. Um, not sure where the echoes coming from.
I mean, it is not from my side. I'm sitting alone in a room.
Well, I'll just quickly say that the
Okay.
attitudes of manufacturing have changed. Quality is not necessarily the like prime
Top
directive,
priority.
not
That
priority.
is
No,
not
no,
prioritized enough.
yeah, yeah. They design things in order with a limited lifespan because
Oh
they
yeah, sure.
in terms
Oh
of like
yes.
playing better for business.
Oh yes.
So society's values have changed, and when you got owners um, chasing profit, then they don't really care about the not necessarily the philosophical side of their business, but I mean the reputation of their business. The business and the product just become a vessel, a means to an end.
Oh yes. Oh yes. But the thing is, at least whatever brand you are maintaining right now, you are making money out of it. Why do you deliberately want to destroy that particular brand? Uh, I mean, forget about motorcycles or cars or steel manufacturing plants. A simple thing like Superman, a fictional character born on Krypton, and it has been the paragon of, shall we say, a Western virtue regarding the Fortress of Solitude, or regarding, his relationship with his mother, or with his journalist girlfriend or wife. He has been the comics character that was regarded as the paragon of any masculine behavior. You
I
have to
think,
destroy it. You
yeah.
have to completely
Well,
dismantle it and make it as a homosexual or a bisexual, so that you could
yeah.
pander to some certain form of demographics.
Well, I don't know if this is a pathological move, but yeah, anything that is like been a staple, well established, um, has a long history or track record, becomes target number one
Oh yes,
or object of
but why
disdain.
is it that, if I might ask you?
Um, well, a pathological way of looking at it is an attempt to reconstruct reality.
Oh, so could it be, and this is just my surmise, I hope that you could correct me. Could it be that they consider these things, and these things which the society holds dear, to be the structures of supposed toxic masculinity and patriarchy, which
Kind of.
need to be dismantled, so that they would be actually able to, shall we say, subvert and indoctrinate the masses?
Sort of, yeah. They're looked at as offensive and insultive, um, so they need to be eradicated. And the pathologically minded has to reconstruct reality in their image. So if I were to say to you like that the sky is blue, you would automatically argue and say no, it's not. Um, just to be a bit defiant, not necessarily. It doesn't matter what kind of fact I present you. The Before I even uttered what the fact is, you'll be like automatically we're going to reject it and um, push it aside and assert our own viewpoint on it.
And please, make me understand this very thing. Uh, I always wanted to understand as to why a structure is being demolished, which you rightly uh, pointed out in your earliest, in your aforementioned statement, that they see it as an insignia of
Yeah,
patriarchy, masculinity, whatever, and they
Yeah.
want to dismantle it.
Yeah, it's
But
not the it's
again,
not the it's not the structure itself or um, any of the kind of like backstory behind it, like how it came to be or anything like that. It's that insignia, what it represents. So they
yes,
attack that.
yes.
So it means that
So
it could be something that is actually healthy, wholesome, and good for you, and would probably maybe even benefit them. But that's not taken into consideration. It's this is something that is created outside of this person, so automatically it must be demolished. I don't care if it's in good faith or anything. It has to go, and in its place has to be the alternative, which can be as balmy and crazy as anything. But again, they're oblivious to that. What matters is the fact that they are reconstructing something in its place. So this kind of feeds back into a sense of like we have defeated the enemy, or we have eradicated what is bad, and in our belief that we're superior, we are recreating a so-called better world.
okay, but in the advent of that very information and in the realization of that very fact, could it be said that any and everything which would be advanced today or was in the past would be targeted as insignia of these very hierarchical structures of the naturalized society which would be targeted? And if yes, then a follow-up question to that would be, then either we have to con- constantly and consistently keep developing new and new insignias, or we are going to be abdicated, and then some malleable dysfunctional entity would take the place of a naturalized society which is based on the hunter gatherer phenomena.
The first part to your question, like, yeah, anything, I mean, anything that represents objective reality is um, potentially going to be attacked because reality is truth. Truth brings in accountability and responsibility and stuff like that. So these this mindset uh, is an alternative reality. So it needs to be cleansed of things that are reminders of what is true. I mean, it could
Oh,
be as silliness as like I've forgotten what I don't know if there's actually a term for it, but where they start talking about buildings being phallic symbols, it's like,
oh
come on,
yes.
you sound crazy, but to these
They,
people,
they they say the same about ballistic missiles. They say
right?
why you have to add ballistic, in the sense that you know there are no testicles attached to it. Well, I say the motor
Okay, crikey,
behind
right.
the missile, the intercontinental ballistic missile itself is a bit of a testicle through which it
Yeah.
gains the escape velocity to enter
The,
the exosphere.
the one way we could get around this problem, but
Uh-huh.
it's a strenuous endeavor,
Okay.
is for the rationally minded people to come up with crazy ideas and put those forward as suggestions for the future, so that the pathologically minded people will, because we all know that they'll be rejected, will reject it and come up with actually suitable ideas of their own. So it's sort of like the backwards way of deriving a good solution. Like if we were problem solving and we're trying to find the best solution, we would have to kind of, instead of providing the best solution, we have to provide the worst solutions so that the crazy people stumble on the actual best solution and claim the credit for it. So that's probably like the only kind of way you can go about it if you wanted it to be actually positive and constructive and beneficial. Is to sort of trick them into actually doing what's right.
Well, that could be one of the solution, or could be one of the solution which
But it's a crazy way of doing it. It's it's like
yes.
like a
I mean, you have to outmaneuver the system. Advent of that very realization, you have to outmaneuver the system, basically. And outmaneuvering the system is too hard because even if you are successful today, they are going to attack you 25 years down the line.
well, that's another problem. Yeah, yeah,
And
because
it becomes a legacy issue.
yeah,
So, in the advent of that very realization, what I have considered is that if I cannot stop the societal collapse that is happening right now, I cannot.
no, I don't
Uh,
think we can. You know,
oh, yes. So, the least we could do is impart our own children with legitimate education, and which the other side thinks is offensive. And we have played our part. I mean, we cannot do anything. We are helpless and hapless in this very particular situation because the level of, shall we say, egotistical approach which I see in 12 or 13-year-old girls in India who are roaming around smoking cigarettes and marijuana all day long, and that too in villages in India. Not even, I'm not talking about cities. I'm thinking that I would be in jeopardy if I try to even uh, tell my niece or my nephew anything regarding anything. So I keep my mouth shut. Uh, I have totally discarded the society in terms of rejecting the idea of living within the society. We have to become a ghost in plain sight, isn't it?
pretty
And
much.
and that is how we need to operate.
I'm not like personally. I don't necessarily feel like I want to ghost. I'd rather just maintain a sort of boundaries. So I don't really want to have to go into hiding per se. I'd rather just be so difficult to contain or control that they'd rather just because usually they go for the weaker targets. So um, just basically they'll just I'd be in terms of the sort of more um, toxic psychological part. The healthier you are, the more dangerous you become because um, you are poison to them. So they all want to keep their distance from you.
I
The
mean,
trouble,
keeping a garden is considered as part of toxic masculinity. Working out in the gym is considered part of toxic masculinity. And playing games, online games, Call of Duty and otherwise, is also considered part of the cabal, so to speak. Um,
yeah,
I would
but there's an
just,
element of how much of that
I
are
mean,
you.
please continue on. Please elucidate on that very thought. I'm coming in. I have to just lock the doors and
Okay,
windows, and I have to get my plate of food for my dinner. So
so yeah,
I would
like
take only 2 minutes, please.
okay,
Please
sure, sure.
continue.
There we see many common attacks, like shaming tactics, or trying to label and attach stigmas and character assassinations, etc. These things only really matter at the core if you allow it to happen. And if you, I mean, yes, you could argue like the mob could come after you. I suppose it's a question of like, are you going to die on your feet or die on your knees, sort of thing. But from a man's point of view, if you can't break his soul and spirit, then there's not much you can really like. You can kill him, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are victorious because he would have died with that his integrity intact. in any if anything, if you were to kill him while he still has his integrity, you've just turned him into a martyr. So they got a bit of a problem pursuing people who are not going to bend the knee in that sense. But it doesn't mean they're gonna stop trying to chip away and call every little aspect of his life uh, toxic in some sort of shape or form. Um, but on the whole, like in comparison between like you and them, they don't have the same resilience or endurance or stamina. They're much more cowardly. So try as they might, they'll hope, fingers crossed, I suppose, a little bit, but they'll realize that there's no shaking you, and there'll be other people they can go after, and likely what will probably happen is that they start turning on themselves. So that might be an interesting thing to see. Well, we already see elements of that. But going back to the point about you were sort of making a point about how we want as a culture we want more and more and more inherent satisfaction or content. There can never, as soon as a change, even if you were to placate and give in and make changes uh, to their demands, they're still not satisfied. They still want to make more changes. So there's a constant state of instability, and that is it's aggravated for the rest of us, obviously, but it's a major problem for their part because despite how much they want to have control, what it reflects or what it means back to us is that they can never actually attain control. You give them control, and they're still in search of trying to control, so they're never satisfied. And you see this in small. I don't know where the line is drawn where it becomes pathological, because we see this in normal everyday life. Like you got people who enjoy cars, for instance, and they like to modify their vehicles and get power out of them, and they get onto that kind of uh, s- spiral of like squeezing every horsepower they can. What else can I do to this vehicle? So at what point is the owner of the car like satisfied with where their modified vehicle has gotten them? And we don't normally look at that as a bad thing. I mean, it can, I suppose, if they do really go over the deep end with it, you could be like, dude, man, your car's about to blow up. Maybe they do actually blow up their car. Um, but this greed or uh, I don't know. I think it'd be good if we can sort of teach a bit of limits and bounds to what it is we want in life. If we look at the long time scale of human existence, the amount of achievements humanity has uh, gained in the last like 100, 200 years is phenomenal
Oh, yes.
in comparison to the entire human race existence from caveman Unga Bunga. So why is it we can't just sort of sit back and relax and enjoy what we have?
No, here is the problem. I have to actually ban some of the people. These people are, you know, posting irrelevant, unwanted comments. Bots, bloody bots.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, coming to the topic, they want to go full throttle into the world where natural hierarchies, I think, or nature itself would be rendered meaningless. For example, for instance, I would say we
Or
all
climate
survive
change.
on. Uh, Pardon?
Climate change. Like, look
Oh
how
no,
we're trying to play God
no,
with that.
not only that. Extinction Rebellion and all that that started in London. I know that. What I'm trying to say is about is this, uh, regarding even such a basic issue like oxygen.
All right.
We all survive on oxygen. That is a given fact. They somehow think that they would be able to tweak the nature in such a way that we would be able to survive on carbon dioxide instead of oxygen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's how crazy it's going to get to the point where humans will become
I'm
an
not saying
abomination.
I'm not saying about a written minuted policy, a public or a private policy of some individual or an organization or a group of think tanks with their holier than thou thinking segments. What I'm trying to say is the mindset behind that. That for such a basic issue like oxygen,
Well,
if you
the
say oxygen is necessary, they would say no, we can survive on carbon dioxide as well because it also has the chemical component of CO2. So
this
only the
might be a little
carbon is
bit.
redundant. So we can survive on dioxide. I
Yeah,
mean,
this might
whatever
be a
that
little bit
means.
of a victimhood where it becomes a easy escape out of responsibility. I mean, what's the goal of self-destruction? It's to self-destruct. So there seems to be, despite the veneer of wanting to improve and do better, what really seems to be the objective is to become as dysfunctional and despicable as possible. That is a true goal: is to become as corrupt and uh, disgusting, to jump balls deep into shame and uh, just horror. And at that point, then they could turn around and be like, "Look at this mutated form I've become. I'm a victim, and I just all I wanted to do was to be a shining angel in the sky or something." So there is this uh, polarizing kind of, well, it's like that clown world flipped, opposites is true. You know, they 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 claim to want perfection because it's something they can never really achieve, and instead what they're more geared towards is utter annihilation. So all this stuff we hear globally about how we're trying to make the world a better place is a load of crock. You know, it is. It's not just we've got clown world. We have a world that is hell bent on self-destructing. It wants to die. It wants to commit suicide. We have a suicidal culture where we are so unhappy with where we are in life. We're unable to just be content. That the only satisfaction we can possess now is in our own annihilation.
Whether it is slow or whether it is going to speed up because of our own efforts, individual efforts, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we see it on an individual level with a lot of mentally ill people where basically they want to die, um, but they're so frightened to live that they don't want to they want to escape life by psychologically dying, and so in a sense become immortal as well, but they're also afraid to die at the same time. So they're in this kind of quasi state of being where no wonder they can't even like navigate reality because they don't even know if they are alive or dead. We'll joke about the Walking Dead or NPCs, but it's that kind of um, quirky strangeness that they sort of exist in interdimensional realms, and it's basically traumatic, um, a lot of pain, and there's no room for any actual pleasure or happiness there. So they sink into that despair and um, would like to basically not no longer exist, no longer be here. And
Is
with
there
that,
not
they don't
any
want you
way?
to exist either because they don't want to be alone.
I
So you
mean,
must die with me.
if scientific technological advancement would make a leap in that direction, where your death would be painless, then I think that that would be something that everyone would be,
They'll be considering it.
pushing the envelope towards their own
But
petition
the
regarding I
problem,
want to die, I want to commit suicide.
yeah, but they're in that kind of problem because they're indecisive. So if you were to offer them a painless solution, like, look, we can put you out of your misery, we can make you go to sleep, forever sleep. They would still be apprehensive towards it because they don't know. Like, what? I don't want to die because I'm scared of the unknown. But it's like, all right, you don't want to die, then what does that mean? It means you want to live. And it's like, but I don't want to live either. Living is hard. It's like, make up your mind. It's like, I can't. I'm not responsible enough to make that decision.
So, okay, let us put it this way. Uh, Let us declare an age limit on the lifespan of people. Let us just say around 45. That's it. You die.
Right?
On 45, on your 45th birthday, you would be given a painless death. You would be
Yeah.
taken away from your children, you would be taken away from your family, and then you would die in your prime, and you would never wake up from that painless, shall we say, happy demise. And this is what is something that we need to work towards, because first of all, when leftists always say there are too many people in the world, there are actually too many people in the world. Plus, if they are dysfunctional, I mean, that adds insult to the injury. So I think all these people who have want to be, you know, taken out of their misery, I think that a solution would be, and perhaps I'm sounding misanthropic, but I'm not. I mean, I would include myself in that very situation. At 45, at best, you are going to die. So, till 45, when you would have a lifespan of 45, and it actually used to happen in a, you know, very significant town or city in ancient China, that after 50 or something, you would be taken away and you would be put out of your misery. Even if you are highly functional individual of the society, you would be taken out because more would take your place.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
used to happen. This was an ancient system in a city in China. I'm forgetting the name of that, but my English teacher used to say that this used to happen in China and in India as well.
well, I mean, I've been with my kids learning history in school. I've been learning myself a little bit about Anglo-Saxons. At the age of 10, you would be considered an adult.
Oh
So
yes.
because life expectancy was very short, so we see an element there of there is a definitive endpoint, and
Okay. Let us just say, for instance, we make life expectancy only and only for men, not women. So till 45,
well,
or let us just lower it up to 40. Uh,
in a sort of generalized way, I think one of the problems that we ended up with in modern culture or society is this idea of um, things becoming a lot. You know, like how hard times shape a man and easy times make things worse. We've had it too good in modern society, where because what would constrain? a lot of these mental illnesses in the past was that there was no room for them. Life was hard back in those days, so you had to get on with life. You had to get on with the job and task at hand. You couldn't at your leisure just sit around and do nothing. But in modern society, we have so many luxuries and like life itself being extended now, and the government state making things cushy and easy for people that now they got it so much easier, and so the privileged are the ones who are making the most noise and complaining how they're deprived and how there's so much oppression. So you could make an argument, I suppose, is that in modern society we have made space for mental illness to we have accommodated mental illness and allowed it to cultivate in our societies. And that's like pushing the boundaries further and further out until there are no boundaries. So now we tell people you could be anything you want and you can have everything you want and you can live basically as long as you want and you can have more and more and more. And if you if you got some if you have contentment, there must be something wrong with you. They would probably consider if you were satisfied with what you have, they would probably consider that as like low self-esteem now. Because like why is it you don't want more? Everyone else wants more. There is more available to you, but there you are saying that you don't want it and you're happy. There must be something wrong with you. And that would be a bit of projection. That their shame is being put onto you so that you feel ashamed of being satisfied. So in this world where we're all trying to improve everything, including our mental health, in fact, well, I'm not sure I can say in fact, but what it would seem is that we're actually wanting people to be, we're wanting people to be more mentally ill. It's all messed up, man.
Well, yes, it is messed up. So I would suggest, what about this? It would be a blessing in disguise for men and boys, by the way, since they have to live only up to 45. They have to be in their prime and they would die young, not old. And this is how, if they would have in the back of their mind all the time that I have only till 45 that I have to live, I would live life to the fullest. I would try to become the best version of myself, and those activities would be enhanced, amplified, magnified, as well as induced within the men and boys. What would be the end consequence of that? That you
Um,
would have some sort
well,
of powerful individuals.
I think for for those who have a sense of self and appreciation for life, will recognize and understand what you're saying and will be okay with it. It'll be like, look, that's the way it is. This is the deal. Make the most of life. Fair enough. I had my life. Now I'm 45. That's the end of it. And they could probably die with a smile on their face. Um, but for the ones who are struggling, like a lack of sense of self, and they have no understanding of what life means to them, then even leading up to that age, they'll be terrified.
Well, the thing is, everyone is going to die on 45. So even if there would be a microscopic minority, you would get a very rich crop of powerful and strong men. so to speak, because they know that they are going to be treated as a sperm donor and a cannon fodder. So they would become powerful for themselves. I'm not saying for anybody else, but for themselves. I mean, old age has very ailments. Your testosterone reduces. You probably are more prone to physical and mental ailments, with amnesia being one of them. Uh,
I mean, I hear what you're saying,
Regarding,
and I see I mean, the principle of what you're saying. I can, I appreciate and I can understand, and I get what you're going with it. I think people are a bit more selfish, though. So one of the
okay,
arguments they could make to counter this 45 age limit will be something, I don't know. They might say, "Well, I want to see my grandchildren or my great grandchildren." You know, something trivial or not. I'm not saying it's trivial, but uh,
look, there are people in the within the military as well. I mean, so to speak, if they're everyone knows that they are going to die eventually because of the conflict and so on and so forth. That is why they don a uniform. So so the basic understanding is that in the back of their head, they know already that just because they have donned this uniform,
yeah.
they are someday going to be shot.
Well, I think the word. So you're talking about like a level of acceptance, and then
Yes,
when you got
and that
acceptance,
needs to be percolated within the male gender, male
yeah.
sex.
I mean, if you got that acceptance, then it's kind of. I would imagine it's like fair enough that they'd be okay with it. But that's the problem. What we have with most people today is that they don't have that acceptance, and they're never sat like we were covering earlier. They're never satisfied. They're always moving the goalpost. They can never accept. To accept is a conclusion as well. So these are people on the whole who do not want a conclusion, because once you have um, an outcome determined, that means like a level of commitment to it. That means responsibility, and they don't want that kind of stuff because, well, they're very. See, what you're suggesting is something that a maturer mind could understand and accept, but for someone so mentally young, they they would be like, why would I want to end my life at 45 when I'm in my prime? Surely, if anything, I should be living on.
Well, because past your prime is the age of decline, your bone density is going to reduce,
Yeah, but they
your
don't see it,
muscles.
but they don't
Yes,
see themselves as past their prime because they're in that
well,
impulsive present moment. Every day is their prime.
well, that is a good thing, but eventually, what happens is your body starts to deteriorate. And in the advent of that very deterioration, what happens is, even though you want to live on, even though you want to bench press more, even though you want to do one more push up, or even though you want to do one more squat or whatever, it eventually comes to an end where you have to uh, throw your gauntlet away. There is a certain age after which you are considered as old, and that is perfectly past the prime. So if you are in the
Yeah,
prime, you have the opportunity since your prepubescent age till your prime to rise and shine above everyone else.
yeah. No, I get that, and it would really like a fire up their backside and motivate them to make the most of it.
Yes, they would get in
But
their zone.
we need to factor in another characteristic or trait, that being of fear. So look what happened when the pandemic outbreak occurred. Everyone's getting into a tizzy and hysterical, and they're all scared for their lives. So there's a strong element of fear running through culture, and that's another reason why they want so many changes, because we're so scared of living in current. I mean, that's the kind of mentality they're trying to put across. It's like current reality or current society is somehow so dangerous and oppressing, and we should be afraid that the promise of the future will provide some false sense of security, where we can all be safe suddenly. Um, so if you've got this age limit of 45 creeping up on you, um, somehow I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of people will try to circumvent it because of the fear, and somehow like rejuvenate themselves, wind back the clock. They'll be
Hmm.
I might be chronologically 45 years old, but biologically I'm only 25, and they'll try and argue their way out of it or something like that. Well, I got an artificial skeleton now, so I should live longer. Like, I'm still functionable, I haven't deteriorated that much. um, but I don't know.
I mean, if we would have, shall we say, an artificial skeleton made out of titanium or something,
Be like
then
Wolverine.
we are talking about an era of transhumanism and whatnot, like cyberpunk 2077 sort of a scenario in
Right.
which body augmentation and everything would take place. And that would be a different factor.
I mean, we've already got some of that in play. We have artificial hearts and prosthetic limbs and surgeries and
Yes,
medication.
but oh, yes, certainly. We have even prosthetic retina of the eyes that is being made for the blind people to be able to see for the first time. So
Right.
I
So
think,
is this, could you argue this is cheating death?
well, in a sense, yes. A succinct reply would be yes, definitely. But for those who have the means to, the wherewithal to do so, I mean, if people do not have deep pockets, they don't receive you know, another person's kidney or a heart, let alone a prosthetic kidney or a plastic heart, for the love of money.
Yeah.
My thing is, for the normal masses, for the peasants and plebes like us, it should be 45, so that we would keep reproducing, we would keep our body in full shape, ready to die, because
Mm.
eventually we are going to die. So instead of growing old and dying, how about dying in your prime when you are at the top of your
Well,
senses, both
uh,
physical and mental?
I can bring up two trivial points here, which might sound a bit self-centered, but
Oh, yes.
I was born when my dad was past the age of 45. So if we had a cutoff at 45, I wouldn't have been born. And but
My father was the same.
not saying that my existence on this planet has been of any use or benefit. I'm just saying that basically I wouldn't exist.
No, it's fine. I totally understand that.
Um,
I was conceived when my father was in his early 40s. So I totally, correlate with what you are saying
yeah,
right now.
and that'd be another interesting point. It'd be like if you were going to aim to then have children much earlier in life, like ideally you wouldn't want to have offspring at the age of 44, because then you've already got 1 year with your child to be a father figure. So if you want to be a father figure in your child's life, you would have to aim to have that child, you know well before the age of 45. But that in some ways that actually supports what you're saying, because then it's like, with this knowledge that as if you're being brought up, and you're aware at an early age that by the time you're 45 you're going to be dead, so you better get all your ducks in a row, then you know you'll be much more responsible and organized and planning, like long-term planning out how your life is, how you're going to pursue and direct your life in that way.
Yes, that is the case. I would concur that that is the case. But again, we could change the rules according to a particular contingency sort of a scenario. What about till that time we would not bend the rules so that these values of living your best life, being at the best of your physical and mental caliber and potential, the your latent potential is actually, these are not bombs going off, by the way, these are firecrackers. So if anyone listens to that, these are not bombs going off, and I am not in any conflict zone in Mariupol or Zaporozhia. Anyways, coming back to the topic.
I don't know. I mean, it's a
I
interesting
mean, it is a
idea.
look. What would happen if we try to inculcate these very habits uh, with subtlety,
I mean, some
only
people
in
have.
boys? Only in boys.
Well,
I'm not saying
some,
in towards everyone else.
I'm,
Only
I'm
in
sure
boys.
I'm sure you've heard the kind of philosophy or mindset of like live every day as if it was your last.
Oh yes.
You know,
When that would happen, either they would revolt, which is also a good thing regarding the scenarios, or it would be a good thing regarding if they develop this mindset, because then they would be actually able to decipher and focus on themselves, because they are the ones who would be living to only till 45, and women would be living towards 75, 80, 90. Who cares? So
you just got me thinking of something where there is a little bit of some in a sort of tangible kind of way. Here in the UK, they have questioned whether or not they should allow old people to still have their driving license, for example,
oh yes.
because once you're old and you're driving, um, not to sound mean to the elderly, but it's kind of dangerous and a bit of a nuisance having them on the road. So,
Yes.
you know, um,
So if, I mean, army also has a retirement age. I hope that the British Army also has a retirement age of around 40 to 45, because that is the age where you are in your prime. At the age of 45, you are in your prime. I would concur. I would give them a leeway that we should not kill you on your 45th birthday. We shall kill you on your 46th birthday. How about let us put it this way: on your 46th birthday, you have you are way past your prime. Your testosterone would start to decline, which is already 30% less than what used to be. during the 80s and 90s and whatnot. So, uh, 6% of testosterone is dropping. Anyways, we would be feeding alongside natural steroids, some of the anabolic steroids, not only for the bodybuilders, so to speak, but for other people, so that we would be able to sustain till only 45. And this is a, when that would happen, and you and I both know that men being if men being shall we say the backbone of the community, then the attention would come back, we're back towards boys,
Mm.
and we're back towards nurturing boys in such a way that till 45 he is not a dead weight on the society. He is a functional person of the society, and he has to achieve leaps and bounds so that he would be able to accumulate a little bit of what he would be able to accumulate for his parents and for his wife and for his children, so to speak. If there is any concept of a family, or even if there is not a concept of a family, he would still be able to live the best of his life till 45, which is the military age.
I suppose in to push back a little bit on your suggestion there, it's
Sure,
like
sir.
why would you necessarily need to have a 45 uh, deadline cutoff point when really people should be making the most of their years anyway?
I would say about this, the people who become 45 plus, they first of all are at the top echelons of the institutions, so that the young people who are full with energy and who want to actually do something, they want to like do something, they are coming with a cause for anything, they are not given any opportunities, that leads to a little bit of pessimism seeping into the young people who are full of ideas, and you could see the stars in their eyes. Number two, after 45, I would concur that most of the society would try to look up to you in terms of fixing your sons and daughters college fund, or tuition fees or whatever you have to start accumulating for that and all that. Well, that is just the dependency of on the state. If we die, then who cares anyways? So education would be good, depending on the circumstances. Now you could say, well, there would be corruption even there. I would concur, yes, but the thing is, we would not be there to even so that someone could mooch off from our own dead body. Number three would be life insurance would be there, medical insurance would be there, totally funded by the state, so that people would be able to, even till 45, they would be able to have knee jerk reactions to any situation and try to do something which otherwise, when you have family and your children and your wife in the back of your mind, you are not able to attempt in a way. I mean, on 45, if you would die doing that, what could be, what less of a hero would you be in the society, because you died doing something, just like in military. I'm just I keep bringing military as a factor because it has the very same retirement age regarding 45. Now what happens is all these top generals and lieutenant generals and the 3 star, 4 star with all the stripes and whatnot with their velcro and medals, they are the ones who become politicians. They are the ones who become spokesmen of the very institution, and they rule the institution. I don't want old men ruling the institution. Just like who was the chap who used to say that war is all about young men dying and old men actually debating or talking about it. So I want to change that very situation. I want young men in the position in the upper echelons as well as young men so that we all would die. There is nobody who is going to take care of anything. And that would actually check the biological markers for sustainable demographic reproduction, which would be way above replacement level. Because if the husband is going to go away at the age of 46, who is going to take care of you?
Mm.
Your own children. When you have no security of the state, when you have no security given by the people, you are it is incumbent upon you that you have larger families, so that
Yeah,
the larger families actually take care of their own people, whether it is mother, daughter, father, sister, whatever.
but I'm reminded again that see, you're approaching this with like a logical angle, right? You're trying to be
Yes.
pragmatic, but that's not the kind of society or world that we're living in anymore. This is emotionally heightened to the extreme,
I mean,
chaotic world.
people could call me misanthropic, and I'm going into misanthropy.
Well, I'm
Well,
wondering if Halloween is around the corner. I'm thinking, is this timed with Halloween, like a bit doom and gloom and death?
no, no. This is not about. I'm trying to have an analytical standpoint regarding this, that it would check the biological marker and it would take away the power of the state that we are living in, because this is how we used to live during the days of the caveman era.
I mean,
Anyways,
you could make
when the Epic of Gilgamesh was written, when Beowulf was written, I'm talking about those days. We used
yeah,
to live the very same.
you
So,
could maybe say that some a form of what you're describing is already taking place because some people are talking about depopulation. So like this could be like the another way of perhaps achieving what you're describing,
oh yes, oh
like
yes.
Culver Week, you know.
Uh, I
But
would say I am describing this because of the very fact that people would be able to understand what is life. It is very short.
yeah,
It is based on your survival. Even
yeah,
if you are lucky enough to survive till the age of 45.
yeah.
We earlier used to die because of malaria, cholera, horse flu, Black Death, which killed 200 billion people in Europe in the
Definitely
past.
like yeah, because what
Yeah.
you're also describing is it's kind of like the argument of quality versus quantity. So the longer
Yes.
you live, like if you live, let's say you live for 1,000 years old, I mean, probably you wouldn't have 1,000 years of quality. So the majority of
Yes.
that lifespan would be shambles or whatever. So an overall perspective of 1,000 year lifespan would be like this life has been wasted. I mean, you know, only a crumb of goodness has come out of it. The first sort of 45 years, and the rest of it has been abysmal. So short but sweet may be better.
I swear these are not bombs going off, and I did not bring a bomb. These are bombs in the vicinity. People are, spending money on firecrackers, and they are just being happy. So that is not me. These are the next door neighbors. I am on the chat, and I am certainly not bursting firecrackers right
Death,
now.
death banging on the door, the Grim Reaper
Yes.
going out of business.
Yeah, no, but see, this is the point. I'm taking a similar analog from the lifestyle since the days of the Epic of Gilgamesh or Beowulf or Mahabharat or whatever. In 18 days, millions and millions of people died on both the sides in that Indian context of that very battle. And that too were brothers, uncles, great grandfathers, and here he goes again. Uh, you know, these are the things which we have to understand. A man's life was never considered sacred, and I do concur that it is even now the case. Now, the only point is that you live under depression, that you live under the care of your wife cheating on you, that you live under the pretext of police being called on you, or your CPS, child protective services, being called on you, or
Yeah,
you are not quite happy with your official work, or shall we say uh, the level of your career or anything.
yeah,
Imagine if you would always know in the back of your mind every day you wake up that on the day it is my 46th birthday, I am going to die.
yeah. It's quite profound.
Then it would, and then when you would see a pattern of, you know, committing this on an industrial scale, then it would trigger something within the male brain.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is
It's
what
quite
I'm trying to say.
well. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
you
what
you
that
asked.
change would be, let us find out. But
Well,
first of all, let us, let us arrive to that destination where this sort of epiphany happens in the first place.
well, what you're doing there is you're asking the man or the individual um, a profound what what does life mean to you? And if he is someone who values life, then he'll make the most of it because it's important to him. But if life isn't got much meaning or value to him, then no wonder he may end up with, as you were describing, like divorce court and being under being oppressed by state and being exploited and used and abused and just meandering around aimlessly because his life's got no direction, no meaning or purpose.
Or
So,
even for a student, even for a teenager student, you don't like the subject that you are reading for your exams, or you don't like the, shall we say, the career that which you are in. You don't live life to the fullest every single day that you are born. You don't try to achieve anything.
well,
You
when
don't
you're
have any
young,
dreams or goals.
yeah, well, when you're young, it's understandable that a young mind may be a bit indecisive, but you would hope that at some point that the person would actually start making like executive decisions for themselves, even if they're bad decisions. They're like at least they're deciding something. But that's the
In
problem we're
Indian
having.
terms, as we learned from the British, if you are going to be a bloody fool, make sure to be damn quick about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing because people are they're not distinct. they might try and say they're going to be with a trajectory, course, direction, but the way society has catered for, what would you call it, like sidestepping, like if you want to have a new career, or if you want to become reinvent yourself or a new you, um, then there's no commitment or no real decisions are actually being made and followed through, because at any point you can withdraw your consent or something like that. So
No, I'm saying about the motivation. Every child, every boy that you would, assuming that you also have a son of your own, you would see that whenever you say something motivating to him, he takes it at face value, and you could see the stars in his eyes tingling, and he would, you know, he would be like your believer, that he would, ride or die sort of a situation. And even in that situation, he would stay loyal towards the advice that has been given by his father. Just like in our case, we are still nice chaps in general. I mean, we are not the particular asshole that we are, that we are, you know,
interesting. I think
assumed to be. So,
so.
so, so my point is, when that would happen, I mean, even in the current existing system of laws of the English common law, assuming it is in India, the English common law, as well as in US and Canada, Canada being a Commonwealth nation like India, and the West has envisioned the society and the concept of nation statehood in general. So let it be. In that case, if we add a global law that on the 46th of birthday of a man, we are going to kill a man, and that's it. Because after 45, you lose a little bit of your testosterone, which is already lower. Your bone
you,
density will start to decrease. And I mean,
you're gonna have to
giving
rename it. You on the 46th birthday or whatever. You're gonna have to call it like graduation day or something. You can't just say, like Killer Man Day,
No, I would say that
Termination Day.
in political correct terms, I would say your life would cease to exist.
Your birthday becomes your death day.
No, I mean that would be much harsher. We would say you come with an expiry date, and your date of expiration would be on your 46th birthday. What about that? I mean, everyone would say, "Oh, we have an expiry date." Okay, fine. We would add this caveat, and we should declare it via United Nations to be a global law, so that it would be known to each and every boy and a man in the world that if you cross 45, including me, by the way, me being the first one, and you would be given a painless death.
I
You would
tell you,
not even come to realize that you are dying, and you would die in your sleep.
no, you'd have the biggest birthday party ever. You know how like birthdays generally get suckier as time each year. The birthday cake gets crappier and crappier. But when that final one comes along, you're gonna go out with a bang.
Oh, yes.
But Contriver brothers, I'm gonna have to get going. It's kind of
Oh, fine, fine, fine.
dinner.
Just attend to the family, sir. It is
So
paramount. As
uh,
long as you have on this planet Earth, attend to the family and take care.
you too, man. It's been a very interesting, surreal kind of conversation this evening. Uh, it's giving me. I was gonna say like, uh, not to give you homework, but maybe out of curiosity, and it might not be the best source to go to, but you could maybe have a look at. people on death row or those who are terminally ill, and how they, because those sort of people, they know their expiration date, right?
Yes.
Maybe not so much the terminally ill, but they got a rough idea, and see how they kind of view it.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah. So like that was
I'm glad you
semi,
came. I'm glad you came.
semi, semi,
You
semi,
made my
semi
day.
enjoyed that conversation. It's just a bit strange.
It's fine,
Interesting.
sir. It's
It's
fine. We
interesting.
people are strange. Anyways.
And it's good. It's good to have conversations that are
Oh,
different
good
than
mother
the
is
usual.
here.
Yeah, just as I'm leaving. Is that GM? Well, anyway, Contriver, take care, sir, and GM. Hope you're doing well, and I'll catch up with you guys whenever it is I do.
Thank
All
you,
the best.
sir. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Hi, Ma. Hello. Okay. Ma would be doing something. Good morning, by the way, Ma. If you are working, please let me know. I would end the broadcast. Ma is not here. Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ma.
Okay. Yeah, it was saying no internet connection, and that's weird because I'm on my phone.
Okay. You must have not opened your mobile data or your Wi Fi.
Mm.
You are working?
I mean, I'm doing stuff at house. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Household chores are the best.
Oh,
I,
yes.
ha- I have the secret elixir.
What is
I have
that?
the secret formula. I'm
I,
saying eureka, eureka to everyone.
yeah. I heard what you
Yes.
and Billy were talking about ending life at 45. I will only consent to that if they do the women too.
Well, I'm saying only and only for guys, so that at least they
Mm-mm.
would realize it first.
Nope. No, because I think that's a good idea because then, all these strong, independent women would not wait until they're 35 to try to start a family because they're like, oh shit, I only have 10 years left. Like maybe I should have had kids instead of, you know, put my career first.
Average age was very low
Hmm.
in men as compared to women. Anyways, women live longer than men, uh, but we die because of stupid activities. Anyways, there was
Right.
a meme actually, and there
Hmm.
was a giant crocodile, and it was written over there, why do women live longer than men? And a giant crocodile and a
Hmm.
man, he was in a bodysuit of a giant crocodile, met the giant crocodile and he ate him.
Mm.
So play stupid games, what could go wrong?
Right. Hey, so you didn't get a hold of Gray at all, did you? Or
Pardon, what?
did did you get a hold of Gray?
Oh, I started the stream for him. I messaged him, and then I sent you the screenshot as well, so that he would contact me. I, uh, I, I fear that I have not heard from him
Yeah,
till
I mean,
now.
it usually takes a day or two for him to even respond. So, I mean,
It's fine. I mean,
yeah,
I could start another stream tomorrow if he
yeah, because
wants.
he really wanted to do some deep diving into some geopolitical stuff.
Yes, and that is why you know, and I'm still checking my inbox, and it has not a single, from him. So, I mean, I leave it to him. We would see as to what happens.
Yeah,
I mean, what is his preferred timing, I would be ready with according to my time zone as well. We would
Yeah,
try to uh, we would try to
set something up.
work it out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how different y'all's time zone is from Germany to
Germany.
India.
Okay, so in Germany, timing right now in India is 10:43, and
PM.
Germany, yes, PM.
Okay.
It is late at night,
Yeah,
and
he's probably.
timing in Germany right now is 7:14 p.m. So it is around 3 hours or something different from here. That is the same timing in France as well.
Hmm. I sent you a clip from a conversation I listened to earlier, and that's kind of. I want to do some, I guess, archaeology of some laws and when they were instituted. Because Sam was talking about how there's, and I already know it to be true because of the Duluth model. The Duluth model has a lot of the psychology stuff in it.
Yes, not so much in psychology, but for activism regarding using psychology or psychological warfare on men so
Right,
that you would get the toy which you want,
right,
like
but
a petulant child.
right, but the things that they use against men are physical and emotional when that should be there should be a distinct, like, that should be bifurcated into male and female, and those things should be able to be used on women.
Well, who thinks that through? I mean,
Well, I'm thinking it through because this is one of my goals, contriver, is to try to figure something out in the legal, because those the Texas Penal Code doesn't have anything like that, and the only stuff that I found that's comparable that can be used for penalty is in the family law, but that's family law. That's not, I guess, civil. Is it civil law?
yes, it is matrimonial law, matrimonial law regarding the matrimonial disputes and divorce settlements and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but there's stuff in there that can be brought out into regular law, like to
That would be civil
criminalize.
law. That
Huh?
would be civil law. Depending
Okay.
on the circumstances, if there is a physical altercation, it would be regarded as a criminal law,
Yeah,
or
yeah, but
otherwise it would be civil.
right, which is weird because emotional and mental abuse is also criminal.
The thing is, men themselves have not realized as to what emotional or mental abuse in general that they have suffered so far. And
Right.
if we would try to quantify the mental abuse, and if we even try to even raise the issue in general public, what would happen is the first thing that you would hear is again the sob story from the other side regarding women and their grievance of from the whole world,
Right.
and what sort of I mean, they are the champions of victimhood. So I mean, let us not short sell them on that. Let us not be reticent about that. So they
Mhm.
would try to hijack it. That is all I am saying.
Well, they can because it'll be in my realm, and these crazy bitches aren't going to hijack anything from me. So
Oh, yes,
yeah,
that could be the case, but for that, you have to become an authoress of a book.
yeah. Why?
Well, writing a book actually provides you certain sort of, let us just say, opportunities to major mainstream media networks where you could have your own say, even though you would be, heckled or something, but at least you would try to make it known to the public, and it adds like more credibility to whatever you are doing.
If I
That is
wrote
why
a
all
book.
of these people, yes, if you write a book.
See, I don't know if I agree with that, contriver.
No, I'm just saying, look, there are activists who are like Karen Strawn and others, Janice Fiamengo and others, who have been in the field on the grassroots level working
Right.
for many decades, I would say. And there are people who have to have the very same decades of experience in that very field so that they would be known to the public. So,
Mm.
in that realm of work, or the
Mm.
work for which you are known to the public, either, oh, hey, I got a mail. I got a mail. I got a mail. Okay, I got a mail. I got a mail. Hey, fine, fine, man.
Oh, did he write you?
Oh, yes, he said, I did just see your email. I apologize very much for missing the stream. I apologize because I could not respond to you. And thank you for thinking about it. If you could kindly give me a 24-hour prior notice, again, my apologies. I will try to make it a fun presentation, even though
Yeah.
it is a serious topic. Best from this part of the world. Let me reply. Uh, Sir, your apology is not needed, as it was my fault in the first instance. I would open a stream tomorrow itself on very same time, when it would be uh, 4 o'clock p.m. in Germany time.
Mm. Contriver. He might be working still at that time.
Okay, so I have to start it later.
Well,
Okay,
maybe ask him what time he'd be good for.
oh yes, tomorrow itself,
Yeah.
depending on the suitability of the time, and I leave it to your discretion. Thanks, and thanks, and regards. You are making a smoothie?
No, I'm making a coffee.
Okay. I thought you were making a smoothie with the mixture.
No.
My mother makes the same. Ah, ah. Let me end the stream first of all. There are some backstage conversations. Ending the stream. Thank you for a lot of the people who joined the stream. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Whoever joined the stream. Over and out.